everybody, I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead. In this episode, I am very excited to tell you that I will be talking to former Paralympic equestrian Sophie Christiansen. My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. Hey Sophie, how are you doing?
Hi Evie, I'm so delighted to be on your podcast today. I'm excited for what we get to chat about.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. It's really lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Have you been up to anything nice today?
I've been to the gym. For me, kind of this year has been quite new to me because I've just retired from elite sport after like 20 years. I'm old. So yeah, this year is kind of the first year I don't have a structure with my competitions, so it's hitting me a bit differently. But I'm still going to the gym. I'm trying out new hobbies in between working, so I'm excited for this new chapter in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking there, like you say, you've been, in elite sport for the past 20 years. And like you say, this is the first time you've not really had kind of structure. How are you feeling? Because obviously that's a really big transition from like being on that kind of 4-year Paralympic cycle of training and competing to kind of not being on that kind of roller coaster anymore. How does it feel?
Yeah, so throughout my career, I started at my first Paralympic Games when I was 16 years old. So I was still in education. I was quite well versed at juggling education with elite sport, and then I went on to getting jobs because my sport is like the most expensive sport ever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I knew I had to work to pay for my horses alongside training. So for me, I've got a job as a software developer in London. I work part-time, I have done for years. So for me, like now, it's just a case of dialing up what I do at work. Hopefully, I'll work an extra day, and just kind of filling in the other days with what I truly love to do. Keeping fit and active, and also being an advocate for disabled people. So I don't think I'll ever work full time because I really want to give back to the community and do what I love and have a platform to speak out about disability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really nice approach. You're kind of you're giving yourself time to do what you enjoy. You are, representing and advocating for other people, but you're also working and doing a job you love as well. I think that's a really nice kind of approach to life. You mentioned that as well, like your first Paralympic Games was when you were 16, and you mentioned that you were still in education at that point. And I'm like, that's no mean feat. Like, that's not being in education and doing a sport on the side. That's being in education and being in the Paralympics. And you said you were quite good at juggling it. But how was that for you? And how did you manage to juggle education with also training for that?
Yeah, so for me it worked really well. I think the balance was actually quite healthy because when I got bored of textbooks, you know what it's like. Um, I could go training, go ride my horse, or go to the gym, but when my sport got too intense, I always knew I had something to fall back on, so for me it was just normal balancing the two, and I had really good support from teachers at school and advisors at university. So it's all about a healthy balance and having the right people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that balance is important anyways, whether you're doing what you were doing, which is education slash Paralympics, or even just like work-life balance, making sure that you're not entirely focused on one thing and you have a line between the two. I think that's important for anyone. And you mentioned there that obviously with being retired from elite sport, you're being able to try out new hobbies and stuff. So are you trying out any new ones at the minute, or are there any hobbies that you really want to try out at some point?
Yeah, so I've started a sport called frame running. So not many people know of it. I run past and people are like, "What is that?" It's kind of like a tricycle but without pedals. So you sit on the saddle and like run and you move along. The sport is in the Power World Championships, but it's not in the Paralympics yet. Not that I would ever get to that level. The elite runners, let me tell you, they are rapid. But I would love to help get the sport into the Paralympics. And, I've started doing park run on a Saturday, which is a free 5K for anyone to go walk or run or jog, and it's so accessible. I just go along and feel like I'm just normal like the other 500 runners every Saturday. So my aim for this year is to try and do a 10K. So yeah, that's my aim instead of making the team again for the for power dressage.
Oh wow. I mean, 10K, like that like sporting ambition is definitely still in you, I can see. That's amazing though. Like it would be really cool to get that into Paralympics because it sounds really cool. But I mean, I'll be honest, I've never heard of that before. So I'm wondering, how did you come across that?
Yeah, it would be an absolutely iconic sport in the Paralympics. They just need more participants in different countries. That's how it works to get sports into the Olympics and Paralympics. But I kind of just saw it happening. I do an event called the Superhero Series every August and December, which is like a triathlon for anyone with a disability, any age, any ability, and I saw people doing it, and I was like, I want to have a go at that. So my a friend I had who actually did paddle dressage as well also worked at a charity selling frame runners. So she helped me get my first frame runner. And you know the trouble with disability sport is it is normally more expensive than running. So instead of just a pair of trainers, I need to buy a frame runner now, which is like £2,000. But for me, that was a lot cheaper than a horse. So I was like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, for the benefit of being fit and active, you know, I love it.
Oh, absolutely. And like when you weigh that up to the cost of a horse, yeah, I would definitely take it. It's a lot
Yeah,
cheaper.
considering my horse that you know, I tried to get to Paris was £80,000. I will take a 2 grand frame runner any day.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually really reasonable compared to that. Um, Now obviously you, like me, have a disability. So could you tell me a little bit about your disability and also, you know, kind of what your childhood was like growing up with a disability?
Yeah, so I've got quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which means that none of my limbs work as they should. Obviously, I've got speech impairment, and you know, growing up, you know, it's not easy
Mhm.
having a disability when you're growing up. And that is why I started horse riding actually, because when I was younger doing physiotherapy to help with my disability was not fun. I found it really boring. I didn't want to do the exercises that the physios were giving me. So they suggested doing dressage with the Riding for the Disabled Association. Um, and that happened when I was 6 years old. I went to a special school, a school with a unit attached, so not a special school, but I was integrated with able-bodied children. Um, and the physiotherapist who visited us believed in the benefits of horse riding for children with disabilities. So instead of doing PE, we all went horse riding, which was amazing. And I loved being on a horse because I felt normal. And so it kind of just took off from there, but I guess horse riding, yeah, made me feel normal, whereas when I was at school, I found it quite difficult making friends. I was quite shy because of my speech. So, you know, having all the experiences I had competing at elite level really taught me to push myself out of my comfort zone to have um, more, you know, confidence in myself to talk to people and make more friends. So sport definitely helped me growing up with my disability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it is such a I think sport is a really amazing thing. And I think what you said there about, you know, horse riding kind of helped you to feel more normal. I think that's really, really powerful as well. I also ride with RDA and I think can't be understated how amazing they are. Because, I love horse riding, and the fact that they are able, they make it such an amazing sport accessible to all. I think they're just such an amazing association that definitely I think deserve more recognition.
Oh yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be where I am and have even thought of doing dressage without the RDA. Yeah, I wouldn't have even sat on a horse. In fact, my mum is quite badly allergic to horses. So, yeah, there's no way I would have been around horses if it wasn't for such an amazing charity who get, tens of thousands of disabled children and adults moving on a horse. Because it's such a form of therapy, it helped with my coordination and balance and confidence, as I'm sure it helped with yours.
Absolutely. Like it definitely does. And I think as well, like as well as it helps with physio, I think just being around horses because they're such like lovely animals to be around. They're so, I love animals in general, to be fair. And I think because animals don't judge you, like animals don't care who you are or what your life's been like or what experiences you've been through. Just as long as you treat them nicely, they will treat you the same way. And I think horses are such lovely animals to be around. But
Yeah,
yeah,
horses uh, just astound even me because of my disability, I have a lot of involuntary movement. So it's amazing how they can tell what I actually mean with my aids to tell them what to do. They just like intuitively know what I mean. So yeah, horses are amazing. But to be honest, I you have my utmost respect because I know a few blind dressage riders, and honestly, I do not know how they do it. It's amazing, like meeting people with different disabilities and like learning how you guys cope. And yeah, I couldn't imagine cantering around an arena not being able to see where you're going.
oh, thank you. I honestly like blind. I mean, para dressage riders in general are amazing. And I want to talk to you about that at some point, how you adapt things to make it work for you. But also, I blind para dressage riders are incredible. I did my first dressage test this year and I just did it in walk. Now I can do trot and canter, but I do it on a lead rein. I actually love trot and canter, to be fair. I love going quick. But I just did it in walk and I did it off the lead rein and there was something about that felt cool. Like it was just me and the horse and I swapped horses halfway through training for it as well. But just being off the lead rein and just being me and the horse in the arena and me being in total control. And I'm sure you'll find this as well. It feels really liberating, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is what we were saying about horses. I can train my horses to, ignore my involuntary movements. While for you, they will need to learn, where you're going. They'll need to be your eyes. So it's just incredible how they can adapt to the different rider, the different disabilities. So, yeah, have we got another dressage competition booked in?
So I don't actually know. So basically, I did a dressage and countryside challenge too, which you might have heard of being an RDA, but I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, I don't know how to even describe countryside challenge for any not like either non-horsey people or horsey people who aren't in RDA. I guess it's sort of similar to mounted games, but it's basically like an obstacle course around the arena. And so I did dressage and countryside challenge, and it was like virtual championships. So I recorded, I was led for countryside challenge, but I recorded the dressage test, and it was sent away in March, and I had to wait till November to get the results, but ended up winning both my classes. So I won my dressage and my countryside challenge, and it was amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. So my first national title, it was back before we had smartphones or, you know, being able to do it virtually. Yeah, it was in the year where they had foot and mouth, so horses couldn't travel around the UK. So we had to do it virtually for like the first time ever.
Wow.
I'd not even heard of this. So we recorded my test like you would have done and sent it off, and I won the RDA nationals, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm quite good. And that was when I was 13.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Like 13 as well to win a win such a like a prestigious title like that is like absolutely incredible. I mean, that is genuinely, really, really, really impressive. And I mean, I know that you're from a non-horsey family, and you said, your mom was quite badly allergic to horses. How did they feel about you starting horse riding and then obviously, going on to do para dressage?
Yeah, I think, I came into public dressage at the right time, really. Because now it's just so competitive. But back then, I got selected for my first Paralympic Games only 3 years after I started the sport. And I stayed with the riding for the disabled actually for most of my career. So when I was 13, I, to be honest, was on the verge of giving up because most groups, I rode with other riders who maybe didn't quite have the same focus and ability that I did. So I was getting a bit demoralized and bored with what we were doing. And then my parents got told about a group called South Box RDA who specialised in para dressage, and they took me along and I was classified. Um, so in Paralympic sport, all the athletes are classified into different groups to make it more fair. So because my disability affects the whole of my body, I was um put into the most disabled grade 1 out of 5. And when that happened, I think everyone got really excited because back then there weren't many grade 1 riders, and they knew how talented I was. Obviously, I had no idea. Um, so to have that guidance through the charity really helped my family because, as I said, I think if I came along now, it would be a different story because my parents aren't into horses and they don't have the financial help that we need now to buy very expensive horses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that can't be understated as well. It is, I think, like we talked about earlier, a very, very expensive sport because you're not just buying equipment for yourself, you're buying equipment for a whole other being. And horses are expensive, like very expensive, and I know that. So I think the financial toll it can take really can't be underestimated as well.
Yeah, and that's why I love the RDA because they do make it accessible and affordable for everyone. It's just, when you want to take that next step into British dressage, into represent Great Britain, that's when the costs start to add up. So I'm very grateful that I came into the sport at a time where we didn't need, at my first games, I borrowed my teammate's horse. That would be virtually unheard of now. Um, so yeah, it's a whole different sport than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can definitely imagine. And I mean, like you mentioned, your introduction to paradressage was as a teenager, and you really did like kind of progress quite quickly. So, you've talked about kind of how you got started in it, but can you tell me a bit about that period of your life kind of, I guess, how were you feeling at the time? I imagine it was a bit of a whirlwind. Did you really comprehend what was going on? Were you nervous? Were you excited? What were you feeling?
Yeah, I think at that time I didn't appreciate what a big deal it was. I definitely, that my first Paralympic Games completely changed my life because, as I said before, growing up with a disability, I was quite shy. And then going to Athens, I saw all these amazing disabled people with different disabilities just getting on with life and joking about it at the same time. And I think, now we get that from Channel 4's coverage of the games. You can feel that, like, humour and how we cope with our disabilities uh, through the media. But back then, we didn't get any coverage. So the only way I could access that was by actually going to the games. So, they completely taught me confidence in myself. So winning my first bronze medal completely unexpectedly, I knew that I wanted to go on and upgrade to a gold.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that you did go on and upgrade to gold as well. And I think, what you mentioned there about that coverage that the games get now. I mean, how important do you think that is for the Paralympics?
Oh, definitely. I think it's great to have role models for, other disabled people to look up to, and to really show how we are elite sports people in our own right. I do think we still have a bit of a way to go. We only seem to get coverage every 4 years. And as an athlete, we don't get the same level of sponsored or prize money as our Olympic counterparts. So that really is quite difficult, and I think if we were to get more media coverage, that would help with the costs involved of power sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is definitely needed, isn't it? And I think that's what a lot of my guests say, it's better than it was, but there's still a long way to go. But hopefully in I don't know, another 5, 10, 20 years time, however long it takes, there will be a lot more media coverage out there.
Yeah, hopefully, but I think the general public absolutely love power sport. A good example of it, I was nominated for BBC Sports Personality of the Year after Rio in 2016, which was absolutely phenomenal. There were 16 contenders, and honestly, I thought no one knows who I am. I'm gonna come last. Who would vote for me over like Gareth Bale and Andy Murray and amazing um athletes Alistair Brownlee and Adam Peaty. But in the end, I actually came fifth out of the 16 contenders because I think the public just really appreciated what it takes for me to live my daily life, let alone, do elite sport. So the general public, disabled or not, really resonate with para athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fifth is amazing. And like, I bet that must have been such an amazing feeling because obviously, although you didn't win the award, in some ways that doesn't really matter because fifth is still an amazing place to come when you're up against other incredible athletes with incredible sporting careers. I mean, that must have been amazing for you.
Yeah, I honestly thought I would come last. Because, I'm not as famous as the other athletes to get more coverage, but actually it was Claire Balding who at the after party, she came running up to me shouting, Sophie, Sophie, you came first. So everyone was so like amazed. Yeah, I just didn't want to come last.
Well, you certainly didn't. You didn't even come near last, which is amazing. And I mean, you competed in your first Paralympic Games at just 16, and then you went on to compete in 4 games in total, and you won 8 gold medals, which is absolutely amazing. And I wonder, what have been some of your kind of takeaways or moments or special memories, all the way from your first games to your last?
Competing at the London 2012 Games at my home Paralympic Games was absolutely incredible for me. It was at the pinnacle of my career. Although I say that, for every game the year leading up is always a bit of a struggle, and that makes the highs a lot sweeter. In 2011, I lost my top horse, Robin. He had to be put down. And luckily, I just bought a backup horse, Rio. And I was still just getting to know him. And in April 2012, I was getting so desperate. My feelings of desperation were like transferring through to him when I competed. And I honestly didn't think I'd even be selected for London 2012, and I met this amazing guy who offered to mentor me. Um, he was an Olympic diver who also mentored Tom Daly. And I was at the point where I just needed someone to talk to, and he came to watch me train, and he just asked me a simple question of why did you start sport in the first place? And I said, well, to have fun, I guess. And he said, well, it doesn't look like you're having much fun at the moment. And of course, he was right. I was taking everything way too seriously. And when I put a smile back on my face, that's when my results rocketed. And I came away from London with 3 gold medals and a world record. Um, it's one of my favourite memories at London being competing in front of 10,000 people. We never get that kind of crowd normally. And uh, the crowd was told to do a butterfly wave instead of clap. Um, and I could feel the anticipation in the air. And I came out the arena at the end of my third competition, and my family jumped up and shouted, "We love you, Sophie!" And the whole crowd just erupted and started cheering, "We love you!" And that is by far my favorite memory.
Oh wow. I mean, God, that really genuinely sounds amazing. And I I imagine obviously all your games are special, but being able to actually compete, like you say, in front of so many people, but in your home as well, in your home country, I think that makes it maybe even more special. Like that genuinely sounds amazing. But kind of going back to your mentor and that conversation you had about why you started sport in the first place. I think that's such a great conversation as well, because I think um that like a lot of things in life, I think you start them because you enjoy them, but then once the enjoyment goes out of it, you often find that then all your passion for it goes out of it, and it just becomes more of a chore than something you do because you like it.
Definitely. And that was exactly his point. And it's so important in elite sport to remember that and just have fun. One of the things I took from that conversation before I competed, I had my carer tell me jokes just to keep everything light-hearted and fun. So yeah, I can still remember a few jokes that I was told before I competed in 2012.
Oh wow. I mean, I think that's a really good idea in itself, just to keep things, like I guess not so you don't get too nervous as well, like just to kind of keep things very chilled, very relaxed, and stop you from putting too much pressure on yourself, because I obviously that would change things as well. But I do wonder, did you ever get nervous before competing? And if you did, did you have any coping mechanisms that helped you cope with it?
Oh yeah, I definitely got nervous. Like 2012 was a bit of a it was my ideal year, really, because once I got over that hurdle of desperation, um, everything else just seemed so easy. So actually, at that game, I wasn't really nervous at all, because I trusted my horse and I trusted the process. But for every other competition and games, different variables are at play. So it's trying to find the right thing that works for the right time. So yeah. I guess for me, just keeping everything light-hearted, telling jokes, has always really worked because otherwise I'm too focused on the job at hand. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think that is a really good coping mechanism. I mean, everyone has very different ways of coping with things, but I think just trying not to put too much pressure on yourself and trying not to take things too seriously as well, like, is a really good thing. Because even though it is elite sport and even though it is para dressage, you're still doing it because you enjoyed it. It's just maybe a step up from what you were doing when you started it. It's still the thing you love. So I think, yeah, it's definitely really important to kind of not take things too seriously. But what would you say it is that you love about horse riding?
Like I just we touched on it before, but horses have a sense of knowing how you're feeling and just, wanting to cheer you up, you know, yeah, well, and actually, my favourite horses have a bit of a cheeky character to them. So I mentioned my horse Rio there. With me, he absolutely looked after me. But then when an able-bodied rider got on, because I do need able-bodied riders to help these things that I can't do, he would take the mic, and I just remember him like completely bronking across the arena with the head coach of GB, and yet I got on, and he looked after me. So they know they have to look after people with disabilities.
Oh, absolutely. No, I love that. He was like, I feel like his thought process there was like, when my mum, my owner, is on me, it's cool. When anyone else is, yeah, no, I'm gonna take the mick. But as soon as my mum's on me, it's cool. I feel like, no, I love horses with personality, and I think I think that's what I love about animals as well, is that, like, just like people, they all have such different personalities.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's why I love them when they're a bit quirky, and like to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you. Definitely agree with you there. You know, you've kind of mentioned that uh, you know, horse riding and starting at a young age really helped with your confidence. And you've mentioned that it helped with your confidence in and out of the arena. But do you think that sports kind of help to enrich your life outside of the arena as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. It has given me the confidence to be able to step outside my comfort zone. That's really the advice I would give to everyone, whether you're disabled or not, is don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone, because then you widen what you ever thought was possible. So without sport, I'm not sure I would have the job I have today. Um, it's taught me to be the best that I can be, to always push for more, and also how to work with a team, because as I mentioned, I needed able-bodied people to help me train my horses. So I was managing my own little team all my life, really. So now in employment, I'm quite happy to, you know, have that teamwork, and get people involved and get the best out of them. So sports taught me so many different skills. That I definitely took into employment and, just living my life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think I mean, it's really great that you were able to do that, and I think that is such an amazing thing. And I think, yeah, like you mentioned there about teamwork, and helping you with those kind of skills is really important as well. Because I think teamwork is something I think we all have to use in life at one point or another. So it's a really great skill to be able to have. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to talk to you about kind of how how you do para dressage, because obviously, everyone does it differently depending on their disability. And I was wondering, do you have any sort of adaptations or adjustments that you make to make things easier for you?
Yeah, so I have loops on my reins because I can't hold the reins for long periods of time. So yeah, they really help because then I almost don't have to use the brain power required to hold the reins. It just happens. So that's my only real adaptation. Like when I was younger, I used to ride without stirrups because I found that I could move with the horse a bit more. You know, my horses have to walk. They only compete at walk. Therefore, it feels like you're riding a massive boat up and down the waves. So following that movement when my legs were in stirrups was quite difficult. But then as I got older, I started having, a bit of pain, so I started wearing them again. So I think in sport you have to learn to adapt to different things. So what worked with one horse or what worked when you were younger won't necessarily work now. So having that adaptability is definitely a good skill to have as an athlete and also as a disabled person, having to adapt to a world that isn't built for us is our speciality. So taking that into your life and your job is really important.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. And I think, like you say there, I imagine that having to adapt slightly, as a rider probably help you to adapt in life outside the arena as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm wondering though, because I've never even thought about obviously not riding with stirrups because it's just what I'm used to. But now you mention it, that does actually make a lot of sense for you to actually properly feel the movement of the horse. But did that feel strange? Obviously, you probably rode without stirrups for quite a while. When you rode with them again, did that take a while to get used to?
Yeah, I've worked much of my career without stirrups. You'll see, yeah, photos from London and Rio. I don't wear stirrups, but yeah, putting them back on. I never like to try something new at a competition. I always like to, get used to it and training beforehand. So it took a while, but yeah, I kind of had to adjust. The horse required it. He was a bit spooky, so I just felt safer having stirrups because he would sometimes leap sideways, and I think if I didn't have stirrups, I would have plopped off. And the older I get, the less I come away from falls unscathed. So it was a bit of safety for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I obviously, that is of the utmost importance, keeping yourself safe as well and making sure that you don't get making sure you don't get injured. And I guess that goes back to what you were saying as well about how every horse is different because it's not like obviously you have to adapt anyway, but horses, like, you can't no two horses are gonna have the same personality, so working out what works for each horse is also really important as well.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's why I've been in this sport for such a long time is because it's always changing with the different horses that I've ridden. I actually competed on a different horse at every games that I went to. So having, that different personality, different movement to work with just made it more different every time. So it's not like I was just running 100 meters every day. I think I'd find that super boring. But not like, yeah, having different things to focus on. I was always learning.
Yeah, absolutely. But I imagine as well, like being, such an elite sports person, constantly on that kind of 4-year Paralympic cycle, for you, that was 20 years. I would imagine that being on that constant cycle was quite intense at times. Did you ever feel that? And if so, how did you manage it?
So I think because I juggled education and employment with sport, I became quite good at what I would call periodization. So I knew when my competitions were. So I would work really hard at my schoolwork and maybe like move up my revision. So if I had summer exams, I would start revising a month or two before everyone else would, so that I had time to also fit in my competitions. So I don't think I ever got like really concerned about how intense the period was. I just, when it was near Paralympic Games, I would dial back the work. And if it was the off season in the winter, I would focus more on my work or schoolwork.
Oh yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think that's a really good balance to have between the two. I know you created a club called Sophie's Gold Club. So can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, so it was in order to kind of change the way people engage with paddle dressage. I talked about the expense of the sport, and I just wanted to almost disrupt crowdfunding and give something back to the people who donate. So it was a membership club where people would pay a yearly fee uh, and get things back like exclusive content from me, newsletters, a chance to win, um, Paralympic kit. And yeah, I think it worked really well to help me fund my sport. My monthly costs were over £1,000 a month per horse, which is more than my mortgage. So it was so expensive. And I'm really hoping now I'm retired to still be involved in power sport, be able to help generate more money in the sport.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you definitely you're an incredible advocate. And I think it would be amazing for you to keep being involved in that. But I think that whole, the club and that system is a really brilliant idea. I know in the November of 2024, you won the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Variety Disability Sports Awards. So, can you tell me a bit about that night?
Yeah, that was so surreal because, I haven't been to a game since Rio, so I was like missing all the almost like being able to meet up with different athletes at different events. I was yeah, wasn't invited to the glitz and glamour, so to be able to go to that was amazing. Just went to support the Paralympic team. Not expecting to win an award. Um, so I was watching the different, athletes go up making really eloquent speeches, and I was like, oh, they sound so good. I could never speak like that. And then it was getting to the end of the night, and my heroine, Tanny Gray Thompson, comes out and starts describing my career. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going up yet. So yeah, to win that award was completely unexpected, and to be given it by, the person who really got me interested in Paralympic sport. And she's still an icon for me now. With her work in the House of Lords and advocacy. And in fact, I have invited her to my wedding this year as well. So to get an award from her really felt full circle for me.
Oh my God, yeah, like that's like the icing on the cake, isn't it? Like you're winning such an incredible, prestigious award, but then you're also being presented it by an absolute hero of yours. Like it doesn't get much better than that, I don't think. And I mean, we we were lucky enough to have Tanny on the podcast in about February of 2024, I think. And she is just the most like incredible person and so amazing to and she's had such an amazing life as well. And like for you to be presented that award by her, it must have felt surreal.
Yeah, I mean, she's really done a lot for paddle sport and is not afraid to speak out about things that are wrong in the UK when you're living with a disability. So, yeah, yeah, I never think you should want to be someone, but emulate them with like I want to be like her. So yeah, she's my absolute idol. I still feel like a giddy schoolgirl when I'm around her. So much so that my fiance had to do the asking to our wedding because I was too embarrassed to.
Oh, that's so nice though. Like that you invited her and I'm sure I bet she really appreciated that as well. But
Yeah,
I
she put it straight in her diary, which
oh
is so cute. So yeah, even I get nervous around people I look up to. So that never changes.
oh yeah, I think it's a very natural thing. Um, so what would you say then has been your proudest moment so far?
Oh, we spoke about the sports personality of the year. That to me, just being nominated and then being voted so high was to me like the peak of my career. Because yeah, it was kind of like getting acceptance from the general public, which is incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that must have been such an amazing feeling, and such an amazing experience to have. I can definitely understand why that would be a huge highlight in your career. So do you have any, sort of goals or aspirations for the future that you'd like to achieve?
Yeah, I said before, being an advocate is really special to me because of winning 8 gold medals. I do have the platform to speak up about what it's really like living in the UK with a disability. The fact that I can't even get in my local corner shop because there's a step to get in and I can't get up in my wheelchair. Um, Also things like digital accessibility, so making websites accessible for screen readers and people who use keyboards instead of the mouse, highlighting these things because most of the time people just don't realise things. And then when they hear about it, they're like, oh, we never knew. Um, so to teach people about disability and being a good ally, for me, being a good ally is not necessarily knowing about every single disability because that's impossible. For me, it's about listening to different groups of disability and starting to ask the right questions of those in power that can make changes to make our lives easier. Because, well, we just want to live normal lives. I just want to get into my corner shop without having to wait 3 minutes for a van to come. Um, so, yeah, I think that's always going to be super important for me to talk about in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a huge matter of education, isn't it? And educating people on, like you say, you don't have to know about every disability, but just some of the struggles that people face and some of the ways that you can make that easier for people. But yeah, I feel like wanting to get into your local corner shop is not you're not asking for the world there, are you? I think that's a very simple thing to want to do, but yet you're not able to do it. So I think, yeah, and I think you are an amazing advocate, and I can definitely see you making some real, helping or making or helping to make some real change in the future.
Oh, thank you. And the same for you.
Oh, thank you. Well, Sophie, thank you so, so, so much for coming on the podcast. I mean, it's been so amazing to get to talk to you. I could talk to you for ages, and I've had so much fun getting to talk to you. I mean, one of the things I really admire about you is just your enjoyment and your clear enjoyment for sport and horse riding and para dressage. And I think you can see how much you love it in the way that you talk about it and the words you use. And I think I love how much you love it because I think it automatically makes people, you know, feel passionate about it even if they don't do it. You just have such a love for it, and I think that's amazing. But, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to me, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course, thank you. And I'm so excited to see where your future takes you to.
Thank you. And thank you to my audience for listening, and I will see you all next time.